Hi, my name is Sarah Schott. I'm Executive Director and founder of Knowledge as Power, a 501c3 based in Seattle, Washington. Our mission is to help individuals become informed and effective citizens in the legislative process. And we do that by giving them an online service that helps them track legislation and communicate effectively with their legislators. Now I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to show you what it feels like to be a legislator receiving email today. On the count of 3, I want all of you to say your full name. 1, 2, 3. Sarah Schott. And while you probably could hear your name, you didn't hear the others. And that is what email overload feels like today if you're a legislator. Prime example of this, I'm going to walk out of the way of the text. I was called in to consult for 10 Downing Street, and they were getting 3,000 to 5,000 emails a week, which translated to 780, or which they were essentially deciding to ignore. This translates to 780,000 to 3.9 million constituents, voters, that they were missing communicating with every year. Why were they doing this? Because 10 Downing Street, like most governments, are completely overwhelmed by the amount of communications that they're receiving through new communications technology, but their bureaucratic process really isn't set up to handle it. And citizens are really using the least effective forms of communication to talk to their legislatures. They're using form letters, which are impersonal. Congressional Management Foundation found that only 30% of form letters are believed to be from real people. Petitions, which equal data management, they're highly impersonal, and it really brings down the believability that these are real people. They're really much more effective putting petitions towards businesses. Mass email blasts tend to break email systems. During the budget crisis, or excuse me, the bailout bill last fall, it actually broke Congress's email management system. And when you're sending hard copy letters to governments, oftentimes they have to be irradiated for anthrax, which can delay your letters by up to 6 weeks. And social media, while it's great for all of us as consumers, just provides another place that legislators have to check for what their constituents think about them. And oftentimes, those tools don't actually tell them this is your constituent. So we'll need to be developing new communication strategies to really keep up with technology and help our legislators hear from us better. One of the suggestions I have for implementing is pretty easy. It's a basic advocacy standard, and essentially all you do is when you send an email to your legislator, you put in the bill number or the legislation ID number. So in this case down here, it's HB 5643. And then you put your position, which has 5 options, which I'll go over in a second. They could be pro, con, etc. You put in your zip code, and then you put in your zip 4. So that narrows down your geographic area down to a neighborhood or a rural area of 400 to 500 people. The position options are pro, con, question, info, and amend. You can see the examples here, but amend is great because you can be against a sentence and not against an entire bill. So also, don't use social media to communicate to your legislators, but rather use it as a listening device. Are they out of town? Maybe you can find that on their Twitter, so it's better to send them an email instead of dropping by their office. Wow, we're on this slide already. And then once you're actually communicating with them, speak in your own voice. Don't use form letters. Learn how to write an effective email, 2 paragraphs, your own information. It's well worth your time. And research before you react. I would highly recommend ignoring form letter blasts from activist groups and then writing your own communication. And these are shown to be much more effective and end up giving your legislators a narrative or a storyline of why what you're saying is important instead of just random emails coming to them. I'd also recommend building relationships off session when they're not so pressed for time, when they're not dealing with 6,000 emails that dropped in their inbox today. And most of all, be you. I'm amazed at the number of legislators who tell me that somebody came into their office to meet with them and sounded just like Bill O'Reilly. That we as Americans are mimicking other people and using activist groups' voices instead of our own, when our own is the most valuable. This is knowledgeaspower.org when we launch in December for Washington State. And what you can't see up there is that we are coming to the state of Oregon to track legislation and help you communicate with citizens, with legislators in 2010. There's my contact information, and I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Ford Foundation, Mobilize.org, and Seattle Web Group. I'm Sarah Schott. You can find me online at knowledgeispower.org and director at Knowledge is Power, and on Twitter at Sarah Schott. Thanks so much. Have a good night, you guys.